Right. So in the last class, we started this thing, NSAIDs. I told you they are non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs that can be used in place of the opioid antagonists or opioid painkillers, essentially, like morphine and codeine. They will not have such a strong effect. On the flip side, it will not even have the same dependence or tolerance. Those problems will not occur with NSAIDs. All right. Now, we discussed about aspirin. We discussed about what is cyclooxygenase and the two types of cyclooxygenase. Why I told you cyclooxygenase is an enzyme that is responsible for conversion of arachidonic acid into prostaglandins, specifically COX-1 and COX-2. COX-2 is the one that you would want to preferably inhibit. Okay, whenever you are giving NSAIDs, your main target is COX-2, but the problem is that when you give a non-selective NSAID, which is not selecting in between those enzymes, even COX-1 gets inhibited. COX-1 has several important functions in your body. It will help in maintaining your gut health, specifically in your stomach. It is promoting the production of prostaglandins and production of mucus. Other than that, it has an effect of making clots. Essentially, whenever there is injury, COX-1 is responsible in having a thrombogenic effect. So all of those good things are also getting blocked if you take NSAIDs, especially non-selective NSAIDs. Preferably, you would want only to inhibit COX-2 and not inhibit COX-1. Okay. COX-1 is important for maintaining homeostasis in your body. COX-2 only appears during inflammation, and it is a propagator of inflammation in a way. If you want to get rid of the effects of inflammation, which are fever, pain, and all, uh, आप COX-2 को target करना rather than targeting COX-1. All right. Now, as I told you in the last mechanism of action of aspirin, how it works, or any NSAID for that matter, it'll go and it'll block COX-1 and COX-2 action. It'll compete with those enzymes and it'll block their action. As a result, what will happen is you will not see the conversion of arachidonic acid into prostaglandins. You might see increased production of leukotrienes though. So, वो cycle कैसे चलता? We have arachidonic acid which is getting converted into leukotrienes and PGs, right? In the presence of COX and in the presence of LOX. Let us suppose you start inhibiting this enzyme. There is a chance that more and more molecule of arachidonic acid will be going through this pathway. Imagine there are two lanes. Okay. Imagine there are 100 people. Let's imagine there are 100 people and there are two roads. One is going this way, the other is going this way. Now imagine 50 people are going this way, the other 50 are going this way. Because of whatever reason, later down the line on road number A, let us suppose this is road number A and road number B. Down the line on road number A, there is a blockage like this. Okay. What will happen? Those people which went, 50 people who went here, they will return and they'll come back here, right? So that is something that happens with arachidonic acid as well. If you are blocking the pathway to production of prostaglandins, there is a chance that leukotriene levels will increase. It is not absolute, but it can happen. Now, coming to the pharmacological effects of aspirin. So, in the last class, I told you one of the main pharmacological effects of aspirin is analgesia. It will cause decrease in pain. Now, it might not be as strong an analgesic like opioid analgesics, but it will work on somatic pain, but not very good on visceral pain. If you're having deep dull pain, उस पे NSAIDs उतना अच्छा काम नहीं करते, और aspirin as such will not work very well on those. But if you have pain in the integumental structures, or you might have pain in bones or muscles or joints, उस पे अच्छा काम करता. All right. And it is the pain is relieved without causing any euphoria. So all the side effects that occur with this thing, opioid analgesics, like mental alteration, that will not occur with mental and behavioral alteration will not occur with NSAIDs. Okay. There's lesser chance of dependence and tolerance also, almost none. Okay. People can develop dependence sometimes just by making it a habit of taking it, but that is not exactly true dependence, I would say. Meaning, if you remove the drug of the patient will not have withdrawal symptoms. See that there's a difference between getting addicted to the drug, as in having dependence on the drug, versus gaining a habit of eating the drug. Okay. For example, I have two patients, A and B. Okay. One person takes opioid analgesics and they have developed dependence of this, and The other person takes NSAIDs and they have developed a habit of it. If I stop the drug in person A, the person will have withdrawal symptoms. If I stop NSAIDs in person B, they will not have withdrawal symptoms. The maximum they will have is pain. That's it. If they are having pain and if their body is getting used to taking NSAIDs, they will just have pain. If you stop taking NSAIDs, that's it. But they will not have any withdrawal symptoms. No vomiting, fever, and all that will not occur. Okay, जो autonomic symptoms होते हैं वो नहीं होते. All right. I hope you understand the difference. Opioid analgesics will cause dependence, and when you withdraw them, you will have withdrawal symptoms. NSAIDs, on withdrawal of NSAIDs, you will not have any particular symptom other than pain itself, the original problem that you are trying to treat. Okay. A habit is formed with NSAIDs, a dependence is formed with opioids. Okay. So that is one effect, analgesia. Then uske alawa antipyretic action. Now, aspirin is not known for its antipyresis, meaning it's not a very strong antipyretic, but it does have certain effect. That is why, because it is not a very strong antipyretic, generally you will find aspirin being given with paracetamol. You either have combination tablets, you give two different tablets, one of aspirin and one of paracetamol. Because even though aspirin does decrease body temperature a little bit, uh, essentially decrease in prostaglandin synthesis will decrease its level in hypothalamus, because of which the temperature will come back to normal. Normally what happens with prostaglandins is, now we are having inflammation. Let us suppose there is a person who is having some inflammatory damage, and there is a lot of inflammation. Because of inflammation, prostaglandins are being produced. These prostaglandins reach your hypothalamus, and hypothalamus is responsible. One of the responsibilities of hypothalamus is maintaining your body's temperature. It works something like a thermostat. Okay, so 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit will be the threshold temperature at which your hypothalamus works. Okay, for your hypothalamus, 98.6 is normal. All the bodily function will work without any problem at 98.6. Hence the body maintains that temperature. Whenever prostaglandin amount increases in hypothalamus, this baseline threshold जो है वो ऊपर चले जाता. So your body will start treating, let us suppose it is going all the way up to 101 degrees Fahrenheit. Your body, or your hypothalamus specifically, might start treating this as the threshold. ठीक है. Your hypothalamus is essentially getting confused in the presence of prostaglandins. Whenever there is a lot of prostaglandins, they will increase the threshold of temperature, thinking that okay, the new temperature now, new normal temperature is 101. It kind of works like a thermostat. ठीक है. So when you give NSAIDs, specifically when you give aspirin, this threshold is brought back down, because you are inhibiting prostaglandin synthesis to a certain degree, not very profoundly, but it will affect it somewhat. They're not a very good antipyretic though, aspirin. There are others that the other NSAIDs that have better antipyretic action than aspirin. Okay, then और क्या effect है इसका? हाँ, anti-inflammatory effect. Now this is dose dependent. Aspirin has three different functions depending on the dose that you are giving. Okay, a normal dose of aspirin, specifically as a, I suppose you are giving it as a what do you call, analgesic agent. Okay, the dose will be around 300 to 600 mg per dose. Okay, and you give 2 to 3 tablets in a day, but generally 300 to 600 mg is the dose of aspirin. If you are aiming for an anti-inflammatory effect, wherein it is specifically inhibiting the whole process of inflammation. Okay, so आप ये anti-inflammatory effect किधर use करते हैं? Anti-inflammatory effect can be used in autoimmune disorders और big inflammatory problems. वो situations में ये dose use करते हैं. Rheumatoid arthritis है या ऐसा कुछ है तो in that scenario, anti-inflammatory dose will be somewhere in between 4 to 6 grams per day, or 2 to 3 grams per dose. Generally, two doses are given. Okay, 4 to 6 grams in a day, or 2 to 3 grams in a single dose, two times a day. Okay, That is the anti-inflammatory dose, high dose aspirin. Medium dose aspirin, which is used for analgesia, is 300 to 600 mg. Then there is something called low dose aspirin as well. Anti-platelet effect रहता है उसका, ठीक है. It about 75 mg to, you can even give up to 300 mg, but generally 75 mg, 100 mg is preferred. 75 mg tablet of aspirin has an anti-platelet effect. This acts as a cardioprotective agent. So I think I told this to you in the last class. If someone has cardiovascular problems, it is handy to keep a few and aspirin tablets, low dose anti-aspirin tablets in their home. Okay. So in case one of them, God forbid, has a heart attack or something like that, जिनको cardiac problem है, if you are able to give a fast release and aspirin tablet, or even if you are able to give some aspirin tablet to them, you will have a larger window where you can take them to a hospital and their heart will be protected to a certain extent. Okay, keep that in mind. Up anti-inflammatory dose, as I told you, you can give it in rheumatoid arthritis, you can give it in rheumatic fever as well, uh, you can give it in osteoarthritis to a certain degree. ठीक है. Progression of the disease will not be affected, only the inflammatory symptoms जो है वो affect होते हैं. So that disease will progress as such. Uh, the problems that are arising because of it, the signs and symptoms, those will be abated to a certain degree. ठीक है. For example, edema, erythema, pain, all of those, migration of leukocytes, yeah, macrophages, those will be inhibited by aspirin. But progression of the disease does not decrease as such. Okay, the patient's situation will still be deteriorating because you're not treating the cause per se. Okay, then we have effect on respiration. So especially at a high dose as in at the anti-inflammatory dose, when you give it as high as 4 to 6 mg, skeletal muscles oxygen consumption will increase. In the presence of high doses of aspirin, the oxygen consumption of skeletal muscles will significantly increase. When their oxygen consumption is increasing, what byproduct can you expect to be formed? Let us suppose I have a cell, and that cell, whatever cell it is, skeletal cells, यहाँ पर मैं skeletal muscle बोल रहा हूँ, take any XYZ cell. Let us suppose it is increasing its oxygen consumption. What should be produced in excess? Something, so our byproduct is formed by the cell, right? Acha, when you respire, you take in oxygen. What do you breathe out?
कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड.
हाँ, तो यहाँ पर सेल्यूलर लेवल पे भी वही बोल रहा हूँ ना मैं. अगर एक सेल ऑक्सीजन ज्यादा कंज्यूम करने लगा, if a cell is consuming a lot of oxygen, the byproduct which is formed in excess will be carbon dioxide. That is a very logical thing to think. Nahin, if what do you call, if you look at cellular respiration, now when you are respiring, it is not just you. There are trillions of cells in your body, all of whom are respiring. ठीक है. You cannot consider a human body as a single unit. Even though it is technically a single unit, it is made up of trillions of cells. All of those trillions of cells are undergoing cellular respiration. So at a cellular level or a tissue level, oxygen is coming in, undergoing some biochemical reactions, and carbon dioxide is being left out. That carbon dioxide comes into your blood. Now, whenever you have increased carbon dioxide inside your blood, last year ये अपन water and electrolyte balance में पढ़े थे. What will happen if there is increased amount of carbon dioxide in your blood? Something gets stimulated in your body. If there is a lot of carbon dioxide present in your blood, what part of your body will get stimulated? Acha, think of it this way. Should there be a lot of carbon dioxide in your blood?
नो सर.
No. Okay. Then what can your body do to expel that carbon dioxide? I'm sorry, I wasn't able to hear you.
Increases, sir.
Increases what? what will happen if there is a lot of carbon dioxide in your body and your body is trying to get rid of that carbon dioxide?
So breathe out करते.
ओके, ब्रीद आउट करते। तो ब्रीदिंग किसके कंट्रोल में है? Just to be clear, it is not under your control, okay? It's not
Medulla.
under, yes. Your respiratory center, which is present in your medulla, the nucleus, उसके उसका stimulation होता. So this will essentially cause, whenever there is increased carbon dioxide, it will cause stimulus of stimulus or stimulation of respiratory center, which is present in your brainstem. ठीक है, medulla specifically. Now, whenever this respiratory center is stimulated, your breathing becomes much more deeper, and your the speed of breathing, the rate of breathing will also increase. So, one effect of high dose of aspirin is that the patient will have hyperventilation to a certain degree, or even if they are not going all the way up to hyperventilation, their respiratory rate will increase and the depth of their breathing will increase, depth of their respiration increases. Okay, and these doses are these effects are dose dependent as well. Now, stimulation of respiration causes plasma carbon dioxide to be washed out. Okay, and as plasma carbon dioxide is getting washed out, what happens is, if this continues for a while, a lot of carbon dioxide is washed out. Now, keep in mind that you need a little bit of carbon dioxide in your blood for a very special reason, because your blood has to maintain a certain amount of pH. Carbon dioxide will be stored in your blood, not just in the form of PCO2, but in a other form called carbonic acid. Carbonic acid is present in your blood, that is making sure that your blood pH is maintained at 7.4. Okay. There are other alkaline substances as well, but one of the most important acidic substance present in your blood is this thing, carbonic acid. Carbonic acid banta when water molecule is adding to this carbon dioxide. Jab you add water and carbon dioxide, you will end up getting this thing, carbonic acid. Now, when rate of respiration and depth of respiration is significantly increased over a period of time, what will happen is excess amount of carbon dioxide is lost. And as a result, what can happen is, when excessive amount of carbon dioxide is lost, the patient might undergo respiratory alkalosis. Okay, this is a byproduct of increased stimulation to your respiratory center. So I'll repeat once again. Whenever you are taking aspirin at a very high dosage, it increases the oxygen consumption at your cellular level, specifically in your skeletal muscles, because of which carbon dioxide is produced in excess. This triggers your respiratory center. Whenever you have excessive carbon dioxide present in your blood, there is a stimulus sent to your respiratory center telling, see, there is a lot of carbon dioxide, we need to exhale it out. And your respiratory center essentially causes increase in respiration rate and the depth of respiration, because of which, there is stimulus to your respiration and you'll start breathing out carbon dioxide. Now it will come to a point where there is slightly excessive amount of carbon dioxide that is being thrown out of your body or being exhaled out of your body, more than what is expected or more than what is required. As a result, what will happen is the pH of your blood will significantly increase due to lack of carbonic acid. अगर carbon dioxide नहीं है, carbonic acid formation will decrease and pH will increase. This is respiratory alkalosis. ठीक है? If you give a very toxic dose, more than 4 to 6 mg, toxic doses of aspirin will cause depression of respiratory center rather than stimulus. The drug itself will cause depression of respiratory center and it can lead to respiratory failure if you give very, very high doses. So I'm talking about 10 grams or something, 10, 20 grams. So उतना ज़्यादा अगर aspirin दिए तो it can cause respiratory failure. And from this logic, from what we studied in the respiration part or respiration effect of aspirin on respiration, it is safe to assume that aspirin also has an effect on acid base balance, right? Especially if you give it an anti-inflammatory dose, it causes significant respiratory stimulation, which causes alkaline pH. It can cause respiratory alkalosis, hence, alkaline pH is created. Now your body will start countering that alkaline pH. Now obviously your blood needs to be maintained at 7.4. If it increases way more than that, let us suppose it is going to 7.6 or 7.7, there will be compensatory mechanisms being triggered by your body, specifically in your kidney. In your kidney, what happens is bicarbonate ions will be excreted at a higher pace. Okay, and in your urine essentially. Along with that, sodium and water ions and potassium ions, all of those will be thrown out of your body. The result is that pH returns to normal. pH starts becoming more acidic. So wherever there is respiratory alkalosis as a result of excessive amount of aspirin, your body will compensate by excreting bicarbonate ions. And by जो bicarbonate ions को अगर आप carbonic acid लिए and you subject it to carbonic anhydrase, you will end up getting H2CO3. Sorry, HCO3 minus bicarbonate ion plus H plus. ठीक है? That is how it will dissociate in the presence of that enzyme, or else it will dissociate into H2 and carbon dioxide. Anyway, this HCO3 minus bicarbonate ion, instead of being reabsorbed inside your body, it will be excreted out of your body along with potassium, sodium, and water. As a result, pH will come down and it will become normal. Come down as in it will become acidic and it will become normal. Okay. Now, if you give toxic doses, there is impairment of renal function as well. Okay. What will happen is because renal damage occurs, keep this in mind always. NSAIDs at toxic doses can cause nephrotoxicity. They can cause kidney failure. At a very high dose, they will damage your kidney. Okay. Generally, patients who have kidney failure or patients whose kidneys are not working properly, उनके अंदर NSAIDs या तो use करते ही नहीं या बहुत with excessive monitoring you have to use it. Okay. If the patient's condition is deteriorating even a bit, you'll stop NSAIDs. Okay. When you give toxic doses of aspirin, renal function is impaired, and as a result, what will happen is sometimes acids will start getting accumulated inside your body. If your kidney is not working properly, a lot of toxic metabolites that are supposed to be thrown out of your body, for example acetoacetic acid hai, ketonic acids, yeah, pyruvic acid hai, yeah, lactic acid hai, that will start getting accumulated inside your blood. Uric acid hai, all of that gets accumulated inside your blood. Your kidney is not working, keep that in mind. Because of aspirin, uh, cells of your kidneys are getting damaged and those nephrons are not working. If nephrons are not working, there will be nothing to purify your blood properly, or at least the purification process will get severely hampered. As a result, what will happen is metabolic byproducts of your cell, जो respiration के metabolic processes के जो byproducts रहते, those will start getting accumulated, and some of them will be your pyruvic acid, lactic acid, acetoacetic acid. All of them will start getting accumulated, and it will lead to your blood becoming acidic. ठीक है, तो metabolic acidosis can occur as a result. All right, so that is another thing that can happen with aspirin. Now, generally, this reaction where acid is being accumulated inside the body, it is accompanied by some other functions as well. So, water is lost through urine. Quite a lot of water will be lost through urine. Even though your kidneys are not working properly, what will happen is sodium and potassium will not be reabsorbed and it will be lost. When sodium and potassium, especially sodium, is not being reabsorbed, sodium will not come in and go out as such. It will always take water with it. So because sodium is not being reabsorbed into your body, it will get excreted out along with water, meaning urination increases, sweating increases. Okay. Water loss due to hyperventilation also occurs. All right. Hyperventilation की वजह से water loss कैसा हो रहा? If you remember last year I told you there are 4 different ways through which your body can lose water. Water loss can occur through 4 main ways. One is urine, second is feces, third is sweating, fourth is respiration. Your breath is moist, it is not dry. So for moist breath, obviously you need to have water inside that breath. Now, in this scenario, when a person is hyperventilating because of high doses of aspirin, they will lose water in that scenario as well. They will lose water through hyperventilation as well. So that is the acid-base balance effect of how it will affect acid-base balance, aspirin. Then it has a few metabolic effects as well. Specifically, when you give toxic doses of aspirin, it can cause hyperpyrexia. Your body temperature will increase. That body temperature is increasing because of increased protein catabolism. Proteins will be broken down at a higher pace under the presence of high doses of um, aspirin, and as a result what will happen is your urine will have a lot of amino acids along with increased protein catabolism. Wherever protein catabolism is occurring, proteins are being broken down. And what do you get after breaking down proteins? You'll get peptides, and from peptides you'll get amino acids. Those amino acids will start getting accumulated in your urine, and the urine itself will become very rich in amino acids. That condition is called amino acid urea. Other than that, because of sympathetic stimulation, increased adrenal levels, and what will happen is hyperglycemia occurs. When the patient is being given high doses of NSAIDs, there is a very good chance that उनके अंदर hyperglycemia होता. ठीक है? Keep this in mind. NSAIDs should be used very, very carefully in diabetics as well. Other than patients who have kidney disorders, be very careful when you're using it in diabetics. Normally, nahi use karte. If there is no other option, that is when you use NSAIDs, and that also you use it very sparingly because it can spike up your glycemic level. Okay. Then it has a few GI effects as well, gastrointestinal effects. So aspirin is a gastric irritant. Okay. Just like any other NSAID, if you remember when we were discussing about PUD, I told you NSAIDs can cause increase in acid secretion. Okay. How they cause an increase in acid secretion is by indirectly inhibiting the production of bicarbonate and prostaglandins. आपके जो goblet cells which are producing mucus and bicarbonate in order to counter that acid, that will be diminished, that effect will be diminished under the effect of NSAIDs. Okay. Especially at a higher dose, they can also stimulate chemotrigazone, which will cause vomiting. Drug particles can cause epigastric distress, they can cause nausea. Sometimes it can lead to ulceration because of increased amount of acid levels. Hematemesis ho sakta. Whenever there is increased acid production, the underlying layers will get damaged. Sometimes blood vessels will get damaged. GI bleeding might occur. Mucosal congestion might occur. Some patients will have melena. Melena is completely black colored stools. That black colored stools is occurring because uh, blood is staining their stool. Okay. And that stain is so deep that it will almost look black in color. So that is melena. Melena is a condition in which the patient will have black colored stools that occurs as a result of GI bleeding. Anywhere in the gastrointestinal tract, if there is bleeding, that can cause melena. Okay. And this bleeding, think of it this way: there is already bleeding occurring because of aspirin use. If you remember, aspirin at a low dose can cause uh, it can stop platelet aggregation, or it has an antiplatelet effect. Now think of it this way: the patient is already bleeding, and if they are on aspirin, their platelets will not function properly. Okay, because it also has an antiplatelet effect. Even though its effect is very profound at a low dose, at a very high dose it will still have that antiplatelet effect to a certain extent. Meaning, if there is GI bleeding, your body will not be able to stop that bleeding. Meaning, more and more amount of blood will be lost through your feces, okay, into your GI tract and through your feces. Hence, melena will be more profound. Okay. Sometimes you might even have bloody stools. Okay. This class is about to end. I'll start another one. Join that one. I haven't taken the attendance, so make sure all of you join the next class.